He emulating Mike B. Hello and welcome to the Watson Weekend, your weekly dose of e-commerce entertainment. We're your hosts. I'm Rick Watson.
Hey, it's Jessica Laseski. I'm back in, and we're going to round out this show with a bang, right? Final show of the year.
Final show of the year. So we're excited about that. I did want to announce our sponsor. We are actually thrilled to announce a long-term sponsorship with Miracle. Miracle is a global leading provider of e-commerce software solutions, primarily in marketplaces and retail media solutions. They have over 450 customers around the globe. If you think about marketplace platforms, no one else has even close to that. And so their customers are unlocking revenue opportunities. So thank you for your sponsorship. And this is what you paid for?
Yeah.
I just kind of had to say it.
Yeah, it's all right. There's value in here somewhere, but it's probably because of our guest. So
yes, we're excited to welcome Scot Wingo here today, an old friend. Scot is an entrepreneur's entrepreneur. Like, he talks to other serial entrepreneurs and they're like, I'm sorry, I thought I was a serial entrepreneur. I'm not at your level. And so we're going to talk about that this week.
He's the
OG. Scot is the OG original entrepreneur. So we'll talk about that a lot on our show.
That's right. Well, we want to not keep him waiting. So we're going to hit some headlines. There were a couple of punchy ones this week, Rick. I think you're going to start with if you can't grow by growing, you can grow by raising prices, right?
Yeah, raising prices is always a great way to grow. And PayPal seems like they are doing that, particularly with their buy now, pay later fees. They have raised their buy now, pay later fees to 4.99%, not 5%. Don't call it 5%, plus 49 cents a transaction. I guess shareholder value trumps everything in a market where no one sees PayPal as a buy now, pay later provider. I'm not sure that this is going to help them increase market share. They still, if you look at the pricing surveys, there are other players that are higher priced than other folks. The buy now, pay later space has been consolidating some.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like there were fewer players that there were 3 years ago. And I think that is something we'll think about. What do you think about this, Jess?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. It's like, hey, we're still lower than the other guys, so you should transact with us. And they've raised some prices in a couple other areas, like there's alternative payments, advanced credit card transactions went from 2.89 or up to 2.89 from 2.59. They're increasing the amount they charge for their virtual terminal. So this is a price hike across the board. Really, again, if you can't grow by the normal way of like getting new customers and growing your footprint, you just grow by jacking up the prices on your existing customers who are already embedded and like you basically have no choice. I thought it was also pretty interesting of like the whole spiel of, well, we're better aligning with the changes in the economic landscape. And we are just now asking you to pay for the value, the enhanced value that we've created for the customers. And I was like trying to rack my brain on what has actually come out that's interesting and new and innovative. And I don't know, after about like 30 seconds, my brain started to hurt because there's really nothing, like there's nothing new. So
awesome. Yeah, I think there's nothing new here. The new CEO has a new management team, got to pay for their salaries. So let's keep it rolling here. Our next story is TikTok Shop, in particular in the beauty category. Tell us more about that, Jess.
Yeah, I mean, TikTok is now outperforming Shein and Sephora among U.S. shoppers. There was a 2025 Consumer Trends report by Coefficient Capital that analyzed these consumer spending habits across all the brands. And what came out is that 45% Americans surveyed said that they had purchased fashion, clothing, accessories at TikTok Shop. And beauty was only a point behind. So 44 percentage points, or 44% of customers had said, yeah, we've bought at TikTok as well in the beauty category. So that's beating out Sephora, which, has dominated this landscape. And I think it's just another anchor in the TikTok Shop sphere of how powerful they are. Sales are around 16 billion, according to a Financial Times report in March. I guess really the question is, there's this little thing like a ban on the horizon. Probably won't go through with the new administration. In the event it did, Rick, who do you think picks up that slack? So I'll just go back to Sephora, or does Amazon, get to share in some of that wallet?
Yeah, I think Amazon gets share. I think, look, in the countries where TikTok Shop or Temu have gotten banned, or the social commerce has gone to the big incumbents. The big incumbent is obviously Meta. And so Instagram Shops, IG Reels would get essentially almost 100% of the benefit there. All those folks are not going to Blue Sky.
No, they are not. Or X.
Yes. Yeah. Only if it's political will it go to X.
That's right. That's right. Well, eBay's making headlines, which is somewhat of a surprise here.
Yeah, I mean, we're like the eBay crew on this podcast now. Scott is one of the eBay OGs. eBay has signed a new expanding partnership with Klarna. So what has eBay done? eBay has been doing a pilot with Klarna in Germany, essentially providing buy now, pay later services for Klarna, which is, don't call them a payments company, call them affiliate network.
That's right.
Essentially, so they help you drive traffic, but really this is about buy now, pay later for eBay, because eBay's affiliate program is terrible. They are expanding the partnership to many different places: UK, Austria, France, Italy, the Netherlands, and don't forget about Spain. So this is something that eBay is doing. Obviously, buy now, pay later is a big consumer trend. Many consumers, particularly younger demographics, said they have used buy now, pay later, at least over half of them in the past couple of years. eBay feels like it's losing out on opportunities. Is this a good idea? Is this a strategy or just a tactic?
It's a tactic. I think strategy has left the hallways of eBay for a long time. Again, when you're like, big bet is buy now, pay later in some of your European markets, like, I don't know, this doesn't really feel like headlines. I will say, eBay is supposed to be the place of the unique and the hard to find. There like a couple of times this holiday season, I've gone to eBay because my son wants this like really obscure collectible stuff, and they don't have it, or it's like shipping from Japan or somewhere. So maybe it's too fringe, or maybe they really have lost opportunities on some of those unique and hard to find collectibles from an inventory perspective. But that should be the category that you would think would appeal to this buy now, pay later situation. So maybe, I guess it's a strategy if they're wanting to continue to grow collectibles and some of these like luxury type categories. But does it drive traffic? Probably not.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of eBay though, I mean, Scott, you and I, we all remember kind of the whole $1 no reserve auction. Sunday night was the place to be on eBay, because that's when all the auctions ended, because I'm not even sure why. Like, you were at home in front of your computer, I think, by then, and like that's when all the bidding happened.
Yeah, that was when people used to sit on their desktops and like fringe bid. Like
we didn't have mobile phones, but we'll get into mobile phones and the evolution of mobile phones here in a minute. We have some pictures from the historical archives that I think Scott will be horrified by.
Yeah, he can't wait. He also can't wait to talk about your hair. So we're going to give him some time to do that. Yeah. So, well, in our final story, this is, we've talked about Lena Khan a couple of times on this show, and we might as well give her swan song. As she is putting up the open to work sign, pour out one for Lena. She has one final thing that she's putting her stake in the ground on, which is she's suing the largest alcohol distributor in the US Southern Glazer's Wine and Spirits for hurting competition because independent businesses are charged drastically higher prices for wine and spirits where people like Total Wine, Costco, Kroger are getting a discount, which, I mean, I would assume they're buying more in bulk. So don't bulk discounts play a role here? But essentially, you know, the story here is small businesses don't have access to these same discounts and rebates. Therefore, they've lost customers. And as a result, you know, they can't operate effectively. So saving the small business, I'm all for.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is where Lena is, you know, throwing it out, and she is she's going out in a big way. I don't know. What do you think about this one, Rick?
I think she's gonna die on this hill. She never got the big white whale. I think that's gonna be the legacy of Lena. I think she was in grad school. She wrote a white paper about Amazon, about how it was predatory to the universe, and I think she went on Jon Stewart to talk about it. But I think that's about the extent of her effectiveness, really, against Amazon, which was supposed to be kind of her crowning achievement. So
yeah. So here's the things that Lena has also done. Let me just kind of read off her resume as we say farewell to Lena. She blocked the Tapestry acquisition of Capri. She contested Tempur Sealy's acquisition of Mattress Firm, continued the pursuit of the antitrust case against Amazon. Many of those were dismissed in October of 2024.
correct.
She issued a formal ban on fake online reviews to protect America from getting cheated. Released the report outlining social media's platforms' vast user surveillance practices and lack of privacy protections. It's just a report, but like you said earlier, she likes reports. Issued a rule banning non-compete clauses, but then that was blocked in a federal court. Pursued a rule to ban junk fees, and she also blocked. Was not on this list, but she blocked, as we know, the airline merger between Spirit and
Frontier.
Frontier, yes. So
two airlines you should not go on. Just FYI, as a PSA for the audience.
Yeah, well, yeah. My son went on one, and he was like, and when we were little, he's like, "What is this tray? I can't even draw on here. Like, we don't get drinks." Like, it was pretty funny. So yeah, so that's Lena's rap sheet. Farewell, Lena. It's been a ride.
Yeah, not good. So that's a wrap on our headlines. Not much else to talk about there. Lena, time to put up your LinkedIn open to work sign. We talked about that a few shows ago.
We sure did. We sure did. Well, hey, we have kept Scott waiting way too long. So I'll bring Scott in. Scott is a 4-time serial entrepreneur from RTP. Really, people think RTP is actually a location, but it is Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. He has founded Stingray Software, Auction Rover, ChannelAdvisor, and Spiffy. Scott loves supporting.
And another one in stealth.
Which we're going to talk about. He supports our Triangle startup ecosystem. He's always been such a champion of this area and helping these entrepreneurs who are pioneering and trailblazing all these new industries. He started the Tweener Fund and now is also a co-host of one of the top podcasts in the e-commerce and retail space, the Jason and Scot Show with Jason.
Better than this podcast.
It is. Yes. So we are going to bring Scott on and relive some moments from the past. Scott,
hey guys.
I love it. Hey.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Feliz
to
Navidad,
you.
whatever you
That's
celebrate.
right.
Love
Mele Kalikimaka, if you're
Look, I found some ChannelAdvisor swag.
I love it.
I don't know if Kabansik is on, but I could not find my Wingo made me millions. My kids have taken all those. They love that one. And Scot Wingo is my homeboy. I have not found those.
Yeah. You haven't found those? All right. Yeah,
they're in kind of the vault, which is a storage unit where I put a bunch of my company stuff. It's like stacked by strata. Yeah,
I still think so that like the shirt you're wearing is from a certain era. It's like the post. It's kind of like right before the IPO. I think ChannelAdvisor went through that kind of logo era. You could go back 10 years before that. Yeah, exactly.
That's
so
nice.
you could just tell from the logo it had.
It's also insanely hot, so I'm gonna take it off.
Evolved evolution. This is a family program, Scott.
Heyo. You told me there'd be stripping.
So for those that don't know the history, let me go back to the beginning here. I met Scott in the fall of 1997. I was finishing up grad school. I hadn't even finished grad school. And
he's wet behind the ears. I had to bring a towel in.
I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was interviewing with Microsoft and this
Heyo.
company called Stingray Software, founded by Aris and his two other co-founders, Aris and Dean, who I haven't talked to in a long time, but we should bring him on the podcast, Scott. I showed up at a Halloween party, I think at Jason Purdy's house, or maybe Aris's house, one of the two. And I decided to work. I was going to join. So I chose Stingray over Microsoft. I decided to join Stingray. By the time I joined next July, which there was a running joke, every company meeting for like 6 months, it was like, Rick Watson is joining. By the time I joined, there was this big thing. By the time I joined, the company was sold. That. I'm like, what the hell happened?
You're a good luck charm.
I was a good luck charm. So I was part of Stingray and RogueWave. Stingray was a Microsoft developer tool company, and was signed by RogueWave. And then a year later, you founded Auction Rover.
That was crazy. That was the craziest period of my life. I can't even tell stories. People don't believe them. I've tried to tell. I talk a lot to students. And I tell them stories. They don't believe them.
It's hard to believe how hard the early crew worked. Like we didn't really go home.
There.
We didn't go home.
No, y'all slept there.
Basically lived there for 6 months.
Stories. Yeah. Yeah. But
leading up to the acquisition, it was nuts. That 6 month period.
Yeah. And we had that guy Mo Nathan who was just crazy, and he would just get in that Rover outfit and do the craziest stuff. Yeah,
he slept on the floor of Mark Isham's cube.
Yep,
like
probably in that Rover outfit.
Probably
couldn't get him out of it, the dang thing.
Yeah,
no, it's crazy. I think you had some stuff to show to bring us back to that time frame, Jess.
Yeah, actually. And Scott, you'd been talking on LinkedIn a couple of times this week about Rick's hair and the origin of the curly and like how this evolved. So we thought we would show some people the before, and then they can really see the comparison. So Vinny, why don't you cue that up?
Woo. Blackberry.
Yeah.
Blackberry.
We lived on those things. Yeah. So
I could still type faster on those Blackberries than I can.
100%. Yeah. And I felt like I was
thumbs
smarter with my Blackberry. Yeah. So my Scott meeting origin story was, at this point, it was ChannelAdvisor. It was 2004. I had been working at Clear Image PR. Jason Kaplan, who was part of a venture capital group that had, funded ChannelAdvisor, was also affiliated with our firm, PR firm, said, hey, you're leaving. Why don't you go over and talk to these guys at ChannelAdvisor? So I had already accepted a job at Cisco, and I was going to be part of their like inside sales program, training program. It was this whole big initiative. So I
don't know this story, Jess.
Really? Yeah. So I walk into the interview, and I can't remember, Scott, if I actually sat or I stood, but you and MJ were like sitting behind this table, like grilling me with questions. Yep. And I remember MJ, asked his like famous question of like, tell me, what's your priority order: customers, shareholders, employees. What's the order? So I think I passed that test. And then I got the job. So then I had to tell Cisco like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm not accepting this job. And that was cool. And then I go into
ghosted Cisco.
I ghosted Cisco. Yeah. For ChannelAdvisor, best decision I ever made.
This is awesome.
Yeah, I can't remember how you asked a cup. MJ could get people fired up interviews, and you get like right back up in his face, and you're like, this is what I would do. And we're like, all right, we're hiring her immediately. You got you're like, we wouldn't lose because I'm not going to let us. No, it's coming back to me. There was something like, what happens if you lose a customer? You're like, I don't lose customers. And like, you got like really dug in on it. And it was funny.
I probably
you were like out MJing MJ, and it was like fun to watch.
Yeah. I was like, I was pretty fearless at that point. And Yeah, he asked me like, who's my favorite athlete? And I was like, Phillip Rivers. And he's like, why? I was like, because he likes to win. I think that like would get him all fired up too.
I love it.
You still got that intensity. That does not go away.
No,
Just
it
get a little
doesn't.
wiser with it. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I saved you, Rick. You could be working on Visual Basic right now, some like
100%
version 1000, and you could be working on selling telephony to the government, Jess. So I saved you guys from a boring life, at least.
You really did.
Made more money of that path. I don't know.
But, no, I don't know. I don't.
You wouldn't be on this podcast.
I would not be on this podcast. I would be, slinging some cables and other things, networking systems.
We have some Cat 6 coming out.
Yeah.
Interested in upgrading gigabit. Switches.
Yeah. So we know, like Scott, most of the people know you, but we thought we would go a little bit back in time and help people get to know you with like a little this or that. So we're going to do some rapid fire, if that's cool. Okay. All right. So Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars. And your labeling's off.
Nice. This is our production value here. Starbucks or Dunkin'?
It's Starbuck S.
Oh, yeah.
And Dunkin'.
There we go.
Apostrophe. Yeah. Depends. Coffee, Starbucks, donuts, Dunkin'.
Okay. All right. Metallica or Korn?
Korn.
Oh, okay.
Pour in.
BlackBerry or iPhone?
Probably iPhone today, but BlackBerry. It would be fun to have them combined. Wolfpack, come on, look, I got my hat on.
I know.
Yeah,
we had to go there.
This was a joke.
Bojangles or Chick-fil-A?
Bojangles.
Okay.
Boom. Good choice.
All right.
Got to see Bo.
And the final one, Dre or Eminem?
Dre is more of a sustained influence. Eminem is kind of he had his time. He's way past his prime. I don't know if you've seen him do anything lately, but it's not good. He's like an angry Ellen. Angry Ellen.
Yeah, I think he still can kick it with Lose Yourself. Like that will never die.
Yeah, it's lip sync. When you hold the mic like this, no one can see your lip syncing.
Yeah. All right.
Pro tip for you rappers.
Yeah. So, so tell folks like what you've been doing these days.
Yeah. So my passion project has always been, as you mentioned, helping folks. So I started the Tweener list in 2015, which highlights the companies in our area that are between 1 and 50 million. And then I turned that into a little fund, and that's been a lot of fun. We're open for LPs, guys. You guys probably qualify by now.
All right.
And then so I started Spiffy and then parted ways there about 4 months ago to really focus in on the Tweener fund. And then I went pretty deep down the AI rabbit hole, and then talked to some folks. I had this kind of like crazy idea, and I said, would this work using these things? And they said, we don't know, we'll try it. And we're pretty much through the feasibility side, and we got it to work, which is pretty cool. I actually have a presentation. I was going to reveal the stealth AI for you. I'm not a StreamYard expert, but I uploaded it here.
Oh, sweet.
Let's get it up.
All right.
Yeah.
Are we breaking news here, Scott?
News.
We are. All right, here we go.
All right.
I love
it. But first, can you guys turn the slides, or do I do that? But first we have to, I do want to talk about this. Okay. So this is the Rick Watson I know. And then he moves to New York. And his hair goes curly. It's the craziest thing. I think there is this, urban legend you can't replicate New York pizza outside of New York because of the water. I think it's the water that turned, there's something, Rick says it's COVID. I haven't read of one of the long COVID things being it gives you curly hair, but I think it's the New York water. So I kind of turned it over to the audience to kind of have their theories.
We need people to weigh in. Yeah. What is the origin story of the curly hair?
Yeah. I'm not going to reveal the stealth AI thing at this point, but we are starting to talk to investors if anyone's interested in chatting about it under kind of an NDA. We'll do that. But in Q1, we're going to kind of reveal it. I will give you a hint. It is getting back into the e-commerce world.
Oh, that's
exciting.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes, and you guys would totally understand what it is, and it's not a ChannelAdvisor competitor.
Okay,
so,
he's back.
So those are the.
I would not expect that.
Tips I'll give you.
You tend to like to do new things, so you want to tread some new ground.
Yeah, this is applying a new thing to an old thing. How about that?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Any who would be the most disrupted? Would that give it away?
It would probably give it away.
It solves a problem you guys are all of us in e-commerce are intimately familiar with and deal with a lot using AI, modern AI kind of approach. And AI is such a broad term. So, LLMs, retrieval augmented generation, agentic kind of stuff. So like the stuff that's happened in like the last 12 months.
Yeah.
We had a big show last week about agentic everything.
Yeah, we did.
I didn't even know there was such a word until last week, but apparently it's huge in the VC universe.
It is, yeah.
We'll agentic.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be bigger than crypto. So hopefully.
Okay.
It's more useful than crypto.
Yeah.
Unless you want to speculate.
So then what keeps you going? Because you constantly are innovating, you're doing new things, you're pushing the envelope with new companies. Like clearly at this point, you could sit back and just chill, go travel, do fun things. Like what keeps you innovating and launching new companies and wanting to keep doing it?
Yeah. So there's kind of two motivational things. I love to build stuff, those experiences you guys have, putting together a team of people. This is the fun thing about entrepreneurship. Like you put together a team of people and you're like, we're going to go build this thing. And you've got nothing. And then you build it and, it's kind of like just magic, right? It's kind of out of thin air. This is the beauty of software. Out of thin air, you've created something worth $100 million, $1 billion, whatever it is. It's not the money. It's the building that I like. It's the solving problems and working with smart people like you guys. That is very fun and it's very addictive. And that's why I keep doing it. Yeah. And then I love spending time with founders. I've tried to do like some nonprofit stuff, this, that, and the other. And it just doesn't, resonate with me because it's great, go solve the world's problems. But I always end up in these committees and I just, I cannot, I can't do it. And then I'll get super bored, then I'll mouth off and then it's like not good for anybody. So, it's just kind of, the entrepreneurs are my people. So I just love spending time with them. I love helping them figure out problems and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, reflecting back on working for you and the type of companies you build, you're so visionary and you know how to like rally people and get them fired up. You're also that like dream big type of entrepreneur. Like you can set that pathway and carry the whole organization of like, this is how we're going to get there and get them motivated. Do you feel like that you're from the entrepreneurs that you're seeing, kind of you're a unicorn in that sense? Or like, do you feel like the entrepreneur landscape has changed at all where it's like, it's profitability, it's focus, it's like less about growth and vision, but more about bottom line P&L management? Do you think that like that has changed in the way entrepreneurs work?
Yeah, every entrepreneur is really different. This is the other thing that's fun. And it's a very stylistic thing, right? Like I'm kind of my co-founder, Carl at Spiffy is a good example. He's like 6'3" military kind of guy, cusses like a sailor, not unlike MJ. And, but his way of motivating people is just like yelling and like, let's go take the hill. I have my own style. I've seen, there's like the super promotional type of a style that like a lot of sales based kind of founders have. It just really kind of varies by style and there's companies that no one of them guarantees success or is right or wrong. That's kind of the other fun thing about it. It's a super stylistic thing. I do see what's interesting is because we have exposure to this is what kind of makes, and we can kind of talk about this kind of crop of AI companies. This is not like the open AIs and the big guys like that, the platform companies. These are kind of smaller companies where they're taking a lot of these tools and then there'll be a subject matter expert in something and they'll know this problem it's kind of like what I'm starting. But there's like 20 of these types of things. They'll know a very specific thing about this problem that is, and they can use these tools to solve it. What's interesting about it is, they're modeling because they're AI native, they're using Cursor and Replit and all these things on the engineering side, and all their go-to-market has AI enhancement. They see that maybe the company only needs like 20 or 30 people. And it's kind of interesting. A fun thought experiment, like ChannelAdvisor, we raised $90 million before we went public.
Yeah.
Half of that went to servers. All right. So cloud, it doesn't knock out all 45, but maybe we could do it with 5. Okay. So now you're at 50 million. And then, we had these huge engineering teams and sales teams. You still would need those. But maybe you knock it down in half, maybe more. I don't know if you guys have had experience with that.
And if it's like Elon running it or not Elon running it.
Yeah. And if, if I was running it and I have a lot more experience now, I think I would have done a lot of things different, but you don't know that when you're in your 30s. So,
you have no idea.
So, I think you could build ChannelAdvisor for maybe 20, maybe 15 million right now. So I think you could, the software and the go-to-market function at that same level. So, that's kind of that's kind of crazy, right? So
it is crazy.
So it's going to have big implications. Maybe, and the word is seed strapping. So maybe it's kind of like bootstrapping, but you do need to raise a little bit to get going.
Yeah.
So maybe these companies are only going to raise like $5 or $10 million, and they can still build, 50, 60, 70, $80 million companies. I think that's interesting. And that's one of the things I want to explore in this new company is, could we just be like so insanely efficient by leveraging all this stuff? So, then what does that do for Series A, B, C, D investors out there?
Right.
I don't know. So it's interesting to think through all that.
Yeah, it is. Do you feel like also the go-to-market's changed? Because I think the advantage that we had at ChannelAdvisor was people would pick up their phone. Like, we were cold calling like crazy, but they'd answer emails, they'd pick up your phone. I remember I used to FedEx articles. Like, I can't believe I did this, but like we would have white papers and I would find an article and I'd print it and I'd like FedEx it to like top prospects just to try to do something different to get attention. I'd for sure, do I'm in your area where like you have to let me go. I'd drop in and I'd sit there because like there weren't all the gating that you had. And so you could just go up to an office and like go check in with people. It feels like it's just like such a whole different world now on how it's harder to get in front of prospects. Like, you feel like are you seeing any companies doing it well in like the SaaS space?
Yeah, it's really interesting. And the AI has changed it so much. So you basically have these Gen AI BDRs that you can have kind of doing it for you. So you train them on your messaging. So remember, imagine you could create a little virtual J2 and you could release 100 of her out on the world. Each one may be half of as efficient of you, but you got a freaking 100 of them, right? And they're going crazy, and they're like meeting people and going ham. That's kind of like what a lot of people are doing. Now it causes the other problem is going to make people kind of turtle even more and like be like, oh my God, I'm getting flooded by inbound. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. What's working best for startups I have exposure to is oddly LinkedIn, which is super
LinkedIn is great. I love LinkedIn.
I do love LinkedIn, but like, I was making you some friends, Rick, over in the comments here, and there is some noise. I don't know how your LinkedIn messages are, but mine is dumpster fire.
It's mostly garbage, like 99% of it.
Yeah, but what people have found is if they, if they take someone that has authority, like Rick Watson, and then the bot very selectively goes out and connects people, then the response rate is very, very high. So that's active. There's this really cool, you would like this, Jess. I'll show you the demo. Let's see if I can find it quick. There's these dialing programs now. So what they can do is, because everything's software, they can, so if you're BDR, and I know you've gone on, but you can kind of empathize with this. Yeah. Let's say you've got to do X calls a day, right? Yeah. What's the movie where he does it so much his fingers crooked? The Pursuit of Happiness.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so you can take these things and you can say, all right, I want to simultaneously connect to my CRM. Here's my leads. I want you to call 5 simultaneously in parallel. And then you're on a headset. And what it does is it calls them and it leaves a voicemail that you record if you get recording. And then if it gets alive, it pauses everything. And then it pops you on. Then and it records the conversation. It automatically, transcodes like a gong, but it's not gong.
Yeah.
And then you just pop right back into, doing your thing. And it's really wild to watch the demos. And I've talked to people that have used these. Most people can handle 3. You have to be kind of a superstar to handle 5 because it's like literally just like
rapid
back-to-back calls. You're just like, you don't do any dialing or anything. It's just call. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
But people can get like 300 and 400 dials a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So, and there's just tons of really interesting things where LinkedIn's made it hard to get any data out, but there's systems that can pull that down and then do things. And it's just crazy what all is out there. It's neat. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there were a couple of things that I know you've talked about in like the e-commerce space. You and Jason talk about e-commerce a lot in retail. You've been part of NRF for like how many years now?
I haven't been lately, but yeah, it was back in, it used to be shop.org and then they got bought by NRF. Yeah. I think that goes back to probably like, I tried for like 5 years getting the darn thing. So it must be like 06 or 07. I got in finally.
Yeah.
Well, they finally recognized that marketplaces were important.
Yeah. I worked my way through the board. I kind of figured out there's some board and I got to go meet all those people. And I did. And finally they were like, okay, we'll let you in.
Yeah. Well, what do you think are the hits and misses right now in the retail space?
It's really interesting because Amazon slowed down to 9%. I feel like the Amazon user experience has degraded pretty materially. I kind of blame marketplace ads and a bunch. I think just kind of losing the founder hasn't super helped. They're obviously spending time on other stuff like AI and AWS. The retail is just kind of atrophying. Where a lot of the innovations going is like TikTok shops. It's handy to have a 18-year-old around, and the TikTok shops are pretty wild because she's death scrolling and sees something she likes, and then you can just click in and buy it right immediately, right inside the influence that's happening. That's pretty wild.
You let your credit card get hooked up to that? Like it's just like open field, open day.
Well, she has a credit card that has lots of bounds on it. That's pretty cool. I thought it was interesting when Perplexity launched their shopping.
We should talk about Perplexity for a minute. I mean, I think there's a kind of this balance between kind of the inspiration focused commerce, which is obviously, I think TikTok Shop is in that bucket. Perplexity, you're interacting with something. The question is, where are you interacting with it? Do they have enough market share? Are they going to embed themselves in other shopping destinations, or are they going to be on their own? Is that kind of the play?
Yeah, I don't know what the play is. Actually, can you throw the slides back up? I did want to show you this. So you guys remember at ChannelAdvisor, we'd have all these big guys inbound to us. And they'd be like, I'm Twitter. This is before X. Who else do we have? We had like Facebook, everyone and their brother. Shopzilla. People that things that still exist.
Jellyfish.
Shopping.com.
Jellyfish.
They would all come to us and they say, we're going to conquer e-commerce. And we'd be like, oh, really? That's interesting. Have you thought about this? And like, that's not going to really matter for what we're going to do. And we're like, okay, call us when you realize.
Good luck with that.
You have no idea what you're doing.
Right.
So I was like, really, I'm a big Perplexity person. And so I was excited when they launched shopping, and it's pretty cool. Here I'm looking for a specific Merrell shoe that I buy a lot of. So I know a fair amount about it. It's called a Moab 3. And it finds me one, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. And then I click into it, and by the time I choose men's size 11 in my color, it's like switched all around, blah, 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 and it's changed the picture and sent me this. So then I'm like, wait a minute. When I said size 11, I didn't mean what's a UK size 11.
Right.
You guys know where
Not
this is
clear.
going. And I was like, this is like, at REI, this would be like $130 pair of shoes. It's the shoes I wear, and I buy one like every 3 years. That's like my thing. And I'm like, whoa, this is great price. I'm like $98. So then I'm like, all right, let me click through, and you can see the retailer there. It's got very kind of a weird name. So I click through and I end up at Start Fitness, and sure enough, it's a UK company. It's 87 pounds, which translates to $110. So I don't know where the 98 comes from. And it's a UK
currency, no big deal. Yeah.
So this is where e-commerce looks easy to all these big search companies. They're like, it's just search with like a couple of little doodads, right? We'll size or something. Who cares? It's easy. And it is not easy. And then they also did the kind of classic, so then I reset and I'm like, all right, let me look again. And, there's a lot of dirty data out there.
Yes.
We're intimately familiar with this problem. And, first of all, there's kind of like Granite V2 and Granite. I don't know,
what's the difference?
What's the V2 of a color? Is it like, 20% more granite, or I don't know. And then again, I'm like, well, this is a pretty good price. So then, I'm like, my radar starts to ping when I'm kind of like, as I went in and I chose granite, and then it switched the retailer again, and then I'm like, okay, this is a Walmart seller called Preferred Pharmacy Plus, and it's $61. What does our Spidey sense tell us about that? And so I ordered it. I'm like, great, I'm going to go ahead and order this puppy. And then after I ordered it, I went to the site, and sure enough, it's like, there actually is not a seller named that, and it's out of stock. So it was like probably a fraudulent seller or something that threw a shoe up, sold a bunch of them, then Walmart
got pulled down.
But it let me place the order, and then it took like 4 days, and I got this email from Perplexity, and they're like, "Hey, turns out that is out of stock, so we're going to have to give you a little refund." So, and then what they're doing is, you'll appreciate this, Rick. You actually buy up at the Perplexity level, so I've entered my credit card, and they run. It says Perplexity on my credit card, right? So they can't just take your credit card and pass it through, because that would violate all rules of PCI on the planet.
Yeah.
That'd be terrible. So what they're doing is they take your credit card, run it, and then they run their credit card through. It's kind of like Instacart in early days.
Yeah.
But what happens is they're paying the transaction fee twice. And I wonder if they actually went through, they actually ran my card, I saw, but then, they had to do this and then unwind my transaction. So now they had a whole, this gets like super messy. The surface is easy and pretty, and then you get into the details and it gets really, really nasty.
Yeah.
So I love Perplexity for search stuff. I don't think they're going to be able to figure out the e-commerce piece as quickly and easily as they think they will. And they're going up against OpenAI. They're going to have their hands full just with a bunch of other stuff versus messing around with this. So I applaud them for trying, and their CEO is crazy. I love watching him on Twitter. He's constantly picking fights with Google. He'll go find like a Gemini hallucination, and then he'll run the same one on Perplexity, and he'll do which one of these seems right? And it's like, holy cow. Like there's one where someone was doing some cancer research and was like, it's pretty much hopeless. The Gemini said, like some of these hallucinations get kind of pretty out in kind of a weird place. And he was like, what's going on at Gemini? It's very unusual to poke the bear. I like poking the bear, but I just like do gentle taps. He's like smacking the bear on the head with a stick, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out for him.
You used to smack eBay around pretty good.
Yeah, that worked good. We poked Amazon a couple times, and that did not work out super great for us. we survived, but it was
came out on the other side.
A lot of apologizing, and we're so sorry.
Meg Whitman did not appreciate the Scot Wingo blog.
No, but that's all right. That's got attention.
Hey, it did.
There's no bad PR.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I've called you 3 times and you're not answering. Here comes we're gonna see if this works, and then the phone would ring pretty quickly.
God bless him. It worked.
Yeah. Well, they got mad at me because I was like, they used to charge you at eBay to have images on your listings. And I got like really spun up about it. And I'm in
the dumbest idea ever.
I did a blog post that like, they shouldn't do this. And they like wanted to invite me in to understand why I was saying that. And I'm like,
pretty basic.
Not realize that if I'm selling it, it helps everyone to have images, right? Like, duh. And they're like, but think of our revenue we're going to lose. And I was like, I got so fired up. I was like, there's this guy, Bill, what was his name? He was the
Bill
COO.
Cobb?
Yes.
Bill Cobb, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, it should be the opposite way. You should pay me. You should penalize me if I don't have images. And they're like, what? This is crazy. It was hilarious.
Well, and actually now they do, because, in my eBay days, so I was there in was like 2011, 2012. We didn't have enough images, right? Because they had that type of rule, and then but then most people were just providing one image. And it's like, well, if you get 6 to 8 images, we're going to rank you higher in search. So then they did take a little page
of your advice. It was a 10-year delta on the advice taking from Scott.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it looks like Nick said Perplexity and Shopify stores seem to work well. The Perplexity Shopify integration is really good, but there's no Shopify store that has my shoe.
No, they don't.
That's it's kind of like it's good for looking at this kind of interesting long tail of stuff on Shopify, but that's another thing that's never 100% made sense to me. Like you look at the Shopify results and they're awesome, and then I go look at like a bunch of Shopify stores and I'm like, what is going on here? Aside from the ones they promote and the ones that are like, Tesla's merch store or something like that,
right? Mr. Beast.
Mr. Beast. There's this weird long tail of Shopify stores that I just don't fundamentally get.
Right. And going back to, we talked about like Meta and the marketplace, like they've also really never cracked the code on shopping. You talked about they wanted to close the loop for a while. They talked to ChannelAdvisor about that, never went about it. I mean, really the biggest part of commerce that they have are seller to seller interactions, dropping stuff off at people's doorsteps.
Facebook groups, Facebook marketplace.
Yeah. So
and
what do you
know, I would hazard, I think probably at least this would be a fun, we could probably back into this. I think like half of Shopify's GMV, the front end is Facebook. So Shopify is the back end payment and mechanism for buying on Facebook. They should have bought Shopify a long time ago and just wired that together. I don't think they could afford it now. Maybe they could. I don't know. But there was a point in time where they could have. I don't think they tried to several times to kind of do their own thing, and they could never get it right because of the things we've talked about.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to see an MMA cage match between Toby Lutka and Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, Toby would win the hat game for sure, but Zuckerberg wins the sunscreen game, so it's kind of a tricky.
And the skiing, wakeboarding, whatever he does.
Yeah,
his suit with the American flag. Yeah,
kiteboard.
Yeah.
What do they call it? Wave runner? I don't know what they call what's even called.
Rick, you'd look good.
Not smart enough.
Your curly hair in the wind.
Yeah. Maybe if I keep moving north, it'll get curlier. Do you think, like from North Carolina?
It'll
to
be
New
interesting
York,
to see if you get off the water. My theory is the water. I don't think it's. I don't think it's latitude. I think it's water.
We should start shipping. We should do a test, and we could ship some water from North Carolina, like just jugs of it. Like
and
that's all you do.
And shower in it, especially
shower. The opposite. I think
it's stimulating his follicles.
I should ship water to you guys and see if your hair grows like curly.
That's true. True story. Although I've been in New York, and that's never been a side effect for me.
You gotta be there a while.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think there were a couple other things that we wanted to get to. You talked about like the tweeners and what you're doing in the Triangle area. Are there any like other entrepreneurs that are on your radar?
Just in the Triangle area,
or just in general?
Yeah. There's this guy, Ryan Walsh. I'm on the board of his company. It's called RepView. That's a pretty good one. It is fun to see a lot of the ChannelAdvisor alumni and alumni do well. Jess, proud of you. You're doing great work. It's always fun to watch you. You don't really climb the corporate ladder. You just kind of like you go to the side of it and scale the rock around it or something. Yeah, it's fun to watch how you navigate the world.
Thank you.
We've got it's hard to capture what all the ChannelAdvisor people are doing. MJ's over at Candle Science now. That's fun.
Yeah.
Because I'd known those guys for a while, and it was neat to kind of see him come into that one. He'll kind of shake them up a little bit. They kind of need a little bit. It'll be fun. I don't think it's kind of like careful what you ask for type of a thing.
Yeah.
We need someone to shake things up.
Good news. Now you have MJ. he's on your ass 24/7.
Could we pause on the shaking up? We've had enough of that.
Yeah. Why are we at WWE Raw? What does that have to do with this?
I don't think he can drag people to that anymore. Yeah. HR departments.
No.
We've got a lot of there's this one Bristles, which is a lot of fun. It's this lady Pang. Yep. Yeah. And I introduced you to her early on when you were at Yeah. Smart. And, so she can just kind of, she had this early app where she's like, and now I'll change the background to this and the foreground to that. And I'll change the wood on this cabinet to that. And I'm like, holy cow, that's pretty amazing. Because we used to struggle with this at ChannelAdvisor, and everyone in e-commerce struggles with this image manipulation because, Zappos wants a white background with the sheet turned to the left, and so wants this with purple, and so wants sharp, whatever. So that's pretty cool. There's so many that it's hard to. It's like kids; you can't kind of pick a favorite. That we have so many awesome companies here in the Triangle. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I do keep an eye on Perplexity. I think that's neat. I'm still a big Elon nut. So one of the interesting things that we've been talking about with kind of the CEOs in our group is it's kind of coming out. Like there was that week where Elon kind of like was like leaning into the election. They launched, Flight 5 of Starship and caught it in the chopsticks.
Yeah.
Then that same week they announced autonomous vehicles and the new little van, Vanagon or whatever that thing's called. And it was like, God, how does he get so much done every week? And his management style is he asks everyone on his team, "What'd you get done this week?" And it's like, that's an interesting question because, and he kind of like holds him, and it's kind of famously like when he was getting ready to buy Twitter, he asked the CEO that, and then the point was Twitter hasn't done anything for like freaking 4 years before he bought it. And that's an interesting thing that you think about as a founder, is like, what's the cadence of this and how am I going to run it? And some people are like, well, am I going to come off as an a-hole if I ask that? And I was like, well, let me introduce you to my friends Carl Murphy and Michael Jones. No, just kidding. And and there's a way to do it and not come off to hold people accountable. And people want to be top performers, want to be held accountable. And there's a lot of people that don't understand that. And it's kind of interesting to kind of think through, what that means. There's another, Mark Andreessen had a story where, Elon will go into all his companies one day a week, and he stays there like 18 hours and has 5-minute meetings booked with everyone. And they get to tell him what they're working on. It's not like I'm going to yell at everybody, but it's like, what are you working on? And what he's doing is he's trying to find blockers. And this is the thing as a CEO you have to do. You got to find, people will get stuck and they don't realize that they're a path of something very important, and he can kind of go and unwedge that. And that's what he's looking for, is the blockers. And he can be like, I can unwedge that. And there's all these great stories of how he's unwedged stuff that we can go into.
Yeah. No, that's great. Listen, we could talk to you all day here. We have Mr. Kaplan waiting in the wings. I mean, I could just say personally, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, like, for everything you've done in my career. This is like the whole ChannelAdvisor crew. Got me into e-commerce and had provided like so much inspiration over the years. So I just really did not want to miss the chance to say that. So
I feel the same. I've had the chance to work for you, and then at Spoonflower, being on our board, you'll just always have a special place for me, because you basically got me into commerce too, and showed me what like true visionary leadership means and can do. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. My job is to find smart people like you guys and just get out of your way and point you in the right direction.
I think your point about,
like, you'll break through it.
Your point about performers, I think, really matters, because I mean, I mentioned I had a choice between Stingray and Microsoft, and like, why did I make that choice? The answer was actually quite simple. I went to Seattle. I interviewed for half a day, and I went through that interview, and then I went through the Stingray interview with Bill Loeb and all the and Mark Isham and Brad King and you and MJ and Jay Pitzer and like all those people there we still know and love. And your interview was harder than Microsoft. And I'm like, if I'm going to make a choice, I want to work with smarter people. Yeah. And not be a huge cog in the wheel.
The brain teasers for interviews, like Wireman.
Yeah. It was not easy, but it was.
We're like, let's write some code, Rick. And you're like, what?
Yeah. No,
you're like, they're round so they won't fall in. You're like, I don't know what you're talking about, Rick, but we're going to write some code.
Yeah. Let's
different
do it.
interview style.
So I loved it. But we're going to bring you back to the dance party. And so we're going to see that sprinkler, get it warmed up.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can get your BlackBerry holster out.
A little cricky, but still
the
works.
Holster. Yeah.
A little rusty.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring on Mr. Kaplan, who he was on last week, and holding the fort down for Jess. And so here we have it. Welcome back, Nick.
Do you guys have the picture from the old school? You know, there's that picture from like the PayPal days with like all those guys that went on to like, they're all billionaires, right? Yeah. It's like, do you guys have that picture from the ChannelAdvisor days? You have like a group photo where like,
we do.
Because I feel like this whole community sprouted from that picture.
Yeah.
I think you go back to that. There was like a triangle. What was the name of that magazine? Triangle Leader.
Yeah.
And then like Mac was in it. Scott will know what I'm talking about. His first, like one of his early dogs, Mac was in it. MJ was in it. I think I looked about 10 in that photo.
I didn't bring it on, but my bachelorette party from work at it was like post and eBay Live. Scott,
correct.
Rick, Max Lyston,
Jason James,
who who else? Like, yeah, MJ, there's like Rob Walter, also George Tranis, like John Coolman, like there were some eBay sellers, like turned friends, put drag on. So it was pretty
we
fun.
went to a drag bachelorette party for Jess.
Yeah.
In Vegas. It was hot.
They did it for me. It was pretty fun. I fell to the floor laughing. It was the best thing ever.
How am I going to follow all this? But Scott did get me fired up. And once again, I've been challenged. I like a challenge. So today we're going to talk a little bit about retail enthusiasm versus retail realism. So what does it take to be successful? Maybe even survive versus thrive? If you think about where we're at now, a few fun facts. For 2024, more closures than openings in stores. And according to UBS, we will see 45,000 store closures in the next 5 years. Let that sink in at our good friend at Simon Malls. Party City racing towards the very dubious distinction of a chapter 22. Supply chain upside down. There's now this thing called retail organized crime. The average shopping cart abandonment rate, any guesses from the peanut gallery? Above or below 70%.
Wow.
It's 70.19%. So the age of efficiency, which we are at, is not easy. So let's look at this, right? Let's look at this question in the great ever-extending moment of this Darwinianism. Enthusiasm. So the world of retail enthusiasm, you have these companies with these big teams looking to justify jobs being sold by many of our friends in the SaaS world, solutions, wine and dine, bifurcated environments. But you got to grow, and growth is natural. You have to grow, really, right? It's like grow or die. And you have to spend money to grow. So, I mean, I think that retail enthusiasts are innovative. They want to forge ahead, throw caution to the wind. So there's this school of people that are always tinkering and evolving, and that's the retail enthusiast. The retail realists hunker down, data-driven decision making, and it's like the tortoise and the hare, right? Slow and steady wins the race. Lots of incrementality, one of my favorite words, building from the bottom up, operational efficiency, and thinking about like strategy versus hope, right? Because hope is not a strategy. Pragmatism, idealism. So sadly, to the challenger, our favorite producer, there's not going to be a declaration. There's not an answer to this question, right? But there is an answer. And I think that, look, the world has changed. Pandora, the genie, they're out of the box. And guess what? In the bottle. They're not going back in. There's just no way. And so I'd say that, like, as you contemplate the realism that you need versus the enthusiasm that you have to have and want, it's like, what problem are you solving? Like, who are you? Think about who were you? And most importantly, think about who should you be as you measure these decisions in your go-forward plan. Like, where do the two camps ultimately meet? So evolve or die. Like, that's what this is about. And Rick and I do a ton of stuff together, helping people figure out this question, which is like, you got to bet. And you got to make that bet to go forward and survive in this ever-changing world. But I think that's like, what are you going to bet on? What matters? It's sort of like thinking along lines of ads. I love growth. And as you think about testing and putting many, many different ads into the environment, you're always one great ad away from success. You're one great experiment away from that as well. And while some companies get to a point where they have to make the big bet from the enthusiasm perspective, many other realists, which is the responsible way to operate, are making lots of bets all the time and evolving their organizations. So I'd advise, make bets, run experiments, fail fast, change your org, become a combination of a realist and enthusiast by debifurcation. I don't even know if that's a word, but we've now coined it officially in episode 46. of the Watson weekend and bring everybody together to vote. You could have one priority and you can make a number of bets to get to the next place. But if you're hunkering down, all you're doing is pushing off the inevitable. So thus, there isn't one camp of realism versus enthusiasm, but we're going to call it rethusiasm to get to that place, to be the company you need to be in 2025 and ahead. So you're not facing a chapter 11, 22, or God forbid, a 33, which we've seen now. You're not one of these 45,000 stores closing, but you're poised for greatness, getting efficient in the age of efficiency, and thumbing your nose at Darwin to say, hey, I will survive, in the words of
Gloria Tweener.
Thank you. So anyway, there we go. As you hear your final Kaplan's Corner for the year, thank you guys for having me on once again. It's been amazing. I love the interview today. Happy holidays to the RMW Watson Weekend community.
Thanks a lot, everyone. It's been a great year, and we're going to hit you next year. Just a reminder, we are throwing an exclusive NRF party on Sunday, January 12th at 4 p.m.
Be there.
Be there or be square.
That's right. Happy holidays, everybody. Thanks for being with us. It's been a great year. Final dance off. Let's do it.